6:14 hours. Black Sea. The morning was quiet. Gray clouds hung low over calm water as a U.S. guided missile destroyer cut steadily through the Black Sea. Routine freedom of navigation patrol. Standard posture. Heightened awareness. Nothing unusual until the radar tone changed. 6:15 hours. Fire control radar detected. Inside the Combat Information Center, a sharp alert pulsed. Not search radar, not tracking radar. Fire control radar, the kind used in the final phase before missile launch. An operations officer leaned forward. Confirm source. Moments later, the answer came back. Coastal installation, Crimea region, Russian anti-ship battery. The destroyer had just been painted. 6:16 hours. What a lock. Means when a warship is locked, it means targeting systems are no longer scanning. They're calculating distance, speed, impact angle, time to target. It doesn't mean a missile has been fired, but it means it could be at any second. 6:17 hours. Bridge response. On the bridge, the captain kept his voice level. Maintain course. Increase electronic countermeasure readiness. The ship didn't turn away. It didn't accelerate wildly, because sudden maneuvers could escalate the situation instantly. Instead, the destroyer activated layered defenses. Electronic warfare suites powered up. Decoy systems primed. Vertical launch cells unlocked. 6:18 hours. Russian aircraft scramble radar picked up new contacts. Two fast-moving aircraft lifting from a nearby airbase. Identification confirmed. Russian fighters. Heading directly toward the U.S. destroyer. Altitude low. Speed high. 6:19 hours. Airspace tension. The destroyer's SPI radar tracked both jets as they approached. Range closing, 30 miles, 25, 20. The fire control lock remained steady from shore. Now aircraft were entering the equation. The situation was compressing. 6:20 hours. NATO monitoring. Across Europe, NATO surveillance aircraft observed the developing standoff. Communications between Allied command centers intensified. This wasn't just a ship and a radar lock anymore. It was geopolitical brinkmanship playing out in real time. 6:21 hours. Missile battery activity. Thermal imagery from overhead surveillance indicated movement at the coastal missile site. Launch tubes adjusting elevation. Vehicle repositioning. One analyst said what everyone was thinking. They're not just signaling. 6:22 hours. Weapons. Hot. The U.S. destroyer shifted to full defensive posture. Surface-to-air interceptors prepared. Close-in weapon systems rotated into standby. Targeting computers mapped both the aircraft and the coastal battery. If a missile launched, response time would be measured in seconds. 6:23 hours. Fighter flyby. The Russian jets roared overhead at low altitude. Close enough to rattle equipment, a deliberate show of force. On the destroyer's radar screens, the coastal fire control lock never blinked. Still fixed. Still calculating. 6:24 hours. The warning. A radio transmission crackled across maritime frequency. Heavy accent. Clear message. You are operating in proximity to Russian defensive assets. Change course immediately. The destroyer did not reply. It continued its lawful transit, but below deck, intercept geometry was being recalculated continuously. 6:25 hours. The spike. Suddenly, a surge in radar intensity. The fire control lock strengthened. Signal quality sharpened. That often happens seconds before launch. One of the tactical officers called out, "Possible launch preparation." Silence filled the room. 6:26 hours. The moment before, satellite feeds updated. Infrared sensors focused on the coastal battery. The Russian jets banked away slightly, almost as if clearing airspace. On the destroyer, vertical launch systems stood ready. Electronic jamming activated at full power. Time felt suspended. Then, a heat bloom appeared near one of the launch tubes. Small, but unmistakable. Cliffhanger. 6:27 hours. Missile launch detected. A bright flare erupted from the Crimean coastline. Smoke trail rising. Velocity increasing rapidly. Trajectory. Directly toward the U.S. destroyer. Time to impact. Under 2 minutes. 6:27 hours. Missile inbound. The flare from the Crimean coastline intensified. A Russian anti-ship missile climbed briefly, then leveled out, skimming low over the Black Sea. Sea skimming profile. High subsonic speed. Designed to stay below radar horizon until the final seconds. On board the U.S. destroyer, alarms echoed through steel corridors. Missile inbound. Bearing 085. Time to impact, 90 seconds. 6:28 hours. Defensive layers. Activate the the destroyer's combat system snapped into full auto-defense mode. Electronic warfare pods began aggressive jamming. Decoy launchers deployed chaff clouds behind the vessel, but the real response came from below deck. SM-2 launch authorized. A vertical launch cell burst open. An interceptor roared skyward. Moments later, a second followed. 2 defensive missiles racing toward one incoming threat. 0629 hours. Radar chess. The Russian missile adjusted altitude slightly. Guidance active. Likely receiving mid-course correction from coastal radar. The first SM-2 closed rapidly. Distance shrinking, 10 miles, 8, 6. Then, a mid-air detonation, a flash against the gray sky. But the inbound track didn't disappear. The interceptor had damaged it, not destroyed it. 6:30 hours. Terminal phase. Range to ship, 5 miles, 4, 3. The destroyer turned hard to port, presenting a smaller profile. CIWS ready. The close-in weapon system rotated, radar locked. The incoming missile broke through the chaff cloud. Still coming. Still fast. 6:31 hours. Final seconds. The second interceptor detonated closer. Fragments tore into the missile's fuselage. It destabilized, dropped lower, but momentum carried it forward. CIWS engaging. A stream of 20mm rounds erupted into the sky. The sound was deafening. The missile wobbled, then exploded 800 meters off the starboard bow. A violent shockwave slammed the ship. Spray erupted skyward, but no direct hit. 6:33 hours. Immediate aftermath damage control teams reported minor hull shock stress, no penetration, no casualties. The destroyer was intact, but the situation was no longer ambiguous. A missile had been fired. This was not a radar exercise. This was an attack. 6:35 hours. Escalation threshold. Across NATO command networks, confirmation spread quickly. Launch origin verified. Missile intercept recorded. Russian aircraft still circling at distance. The U.S. destroyer's captain faced the decision every commander trains for, but hopes never to make. Retaliate immediately or hold position to avoid full-scale escalation. 6:37 hours. America's move. Instead of firing back at the coastal battery, the destroyer transmitted encrypted targeting data to higher command. Minutes later, U.S. reconnaissance aircraft repositioned. A submarine in the Mediterranean altered course. Strategic bombers were placed on alert. The response wouldn't be impulsive. It would be calculated. 0640 hours. Russia's silence. The coastal radar lock disengaged. Russian jets withdrew toward mainland airspace. No second launch followed. No radio transmission, just silence. Heavy, deliberate. 6:45 hours. The message. Through secure diplomatic channels, a warning was delivered. Any further hostile action against U.S. naval forces will be met with proportional response. No theatrics, no press conference, just clarity. Final reflection. A missile was fired in the Black Sea. It was intercepted. The destroyer survived. But something fundamental had shifted. Because radar locks can be dismissed, flybys can be ignored. But once a missile leaves its launcher, the line has already been crossed. Final line. In less than 5 minutes, the Black Sea went from tense to explosive. The missile missed. The ship survived. But the next move would decide whether it was a warning or the opening shot of something far bigger.